welcome back. So today I'm going to be doing another video, and honestly today's video is something I never really thought I would ever talk about or even really come to the conclusion of. So as you guys can see by the title, I'm going to be talking about why I am no longer Christian. For some of you that know me better, you might feel like this is kind of an abrupt thing to say or something that you maybe didn't expect, but honestly this has been a really long time coming for me. And I thought it'd be really interesting to just share a little bit about my experience and what led me to this point, and a little bit about my background and sort of what I believe now. I do have some notes on my phone and I'm going to be looking at them to sort of help me stay on track with what I want to discuss and my topics and kind of the main points of this video. The first thing I want to look up is what the definition of religion is. The dictionary says the belief in a worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods. It can also be defined as a particular system of faith and worship, a pursuit or interest to which someone ascribes supreme importance. Okay, so now you know what the definition of religion is. And always I have my coffee. Okay, so basically I want to start from kind of the beginning and just give you guys a little bit of a background. So I did grow up in the church. I grew up non-denominational evangelical, actually I think my actual church is Assemblies of God, so it's sort of a non-denominational, sort of an open church. You know, there aren't a lot of rules to it other than you really focus on the Bible. That is, you know, kind of the main point is like the Bible is what they go off of. They believe in Jesus. They believe that if you repent and you give your life over to the Lord, then you're saved. This is like my perspective of what it meant being Christian in a non-denominational church. They do speak in tongues, and there's a lot of like worship is really emphasized in this sort of church. I don't know if I'm explaining this right. This is just kind of my perspective of it, and yeah. And the thing with this is I really want it to be as transparent as possible. I don't want to try to get all hung up with the words and, you know, what this means and what that means. I just want to talk about my experience and where I'm at now. This isn't going to be a judgment type video or, you know, I'm mad about this or I'm mad about that, because I'm really not. Honestly, everything that I experienced has led me up to where I am at now, so I am really grateful for that. With my experience in the church, I honestly really enjoyed it. I did feel like compared to other religions or belief systems, they were very open and very accepting in a lot of ways. I liked it. I met amazing people. I had some amazing youth pastors when I was in middle school, and I don't think I ever had like such amazing mentors as I did during that time. You know, I did enjoy it. That's the thing. I loved being a part of a community. I loved having friends and having something that we all believed in, and knowing what my future held. And you know, there was this idea that there's so much more, and where we are now is only temporary, and you know, eternal life and all of this. And you know, it spoke a lot to me because I do have a lot of anxiety, and I felt a lot of connection knowing that there was more for my life. The part where I started to really disconnect, because I'm not going to go into a lot about my church or what, you know, if there was any big thing that happened, because there really wasn't. But I think the more as I started getting older, I started to like question things more, you know, and I started to have beliefs that didn't necessarily align with the church. I'm not saying all people who are Christian are bad at all. I know some amazing Christian people who truly show their love for God and they exemplify it in their lives. You know, I don't think it's good to say, oh, Christians are like this or secular people are like this. I think both ways people can be very hateful. On any system of belief or not, people can be hateful. I don't think it's just one thing, but for me, this was sort of my experience like with the church and my beliefs and how it sort of changed. Yeah, this is hard to talk about because a lot of good has come from my experience in the church. It hasn't been all bad. It really hasn't at all. It was honestly, the part that changed was really when I started to look at myself, and even now looking at my past self, I feel like I was very hateful, and it was really hard for me to have true open conversation with people, if that makes sense. When I would have conversations with people, it was always, especially people who believed different things than I did, or, you know, tried to like bring different points, I feel like I had this filter on. And anytime someone would talk to me, it's like I would take things in, but I never really would try to understand and I don't think that was my fault. I mean, I was really young, so this was all I knew, and this is what I knew was right. And, you know, a non-denominational church, evangelical, it's very big into teaching other people about God and not converting other people. They don't like to say that, but it's like making other people know the truth, you know? I feel like it was really hard for me to have open dialogue with people, and now looking back, I feel like I had a lot of fear, and, you know, I kind of felt like, oh my gosh, if I believe these things, like, God will know, and, you know, I don't want to go to hell. And that is a big part of it, is like, I felt like it was really fear-driven. They even say that in the Bible. It's like fearing God and knowing he's kind of the ultimate one. I don't know, as I got older, I started to realize that really wasn't for me. I don't want to fear the belief to be fear-driven. You know, I don't want to be scared. I don't want to be believing in something because I'm afraid I'm going to go to hell. And like going back, actually, hold on, I'm going to go back really quick and mention to you guys, when I was young and in middle school and kind of early high school, I was very avid at going to church. Like, I would go on Sundays, I would do Wednesday night youth group, I did like retreats, church retreats, I went on mission trips. So this is kind of to give you background on like how invested I was. Okay, so going into the next point, like part of the reason I started not to feel as closely tied to the church, I mean, it happened over time, but when I moved to Colorado, which was a few years ago, and I got away from it more, was sort of when I just started like not feeling so connected to the church. But it's weird to say too, because even when I was in Colorado, I always tried to immerse myself like in church type groups or Christian groups or just, you know, things like that, which I also think is great because you do meet people and you form communities. And in Colorado, they were really cool. Like, I really liked the more progressive type of people, which I think can be harder to find in smaller towns, you know, and that's one thing. Like, I don't think every place is the same with their beliefs, but I do live in a smaller town, so people are a little more closed-minded, and, you know, they oppose more mainstream things and they're not as progressive, so that's kind of something to think about. But when I was in Colorado, that's kind of when I really like started to disconnect, you know, when I learned about feminism and just my beliefs started to change more, and I started to question things and do more research and like think for myself. And going back to kind of the things that disconnected me from the church, I didn't, like, looking back now, I don't like that the judging people, you know, or believing people should do things despite what's going to make them happy. And I know that can be a really broad thing to say. It's like, well, you know, you think people should kill people or this. It's like, no, that's so extreme. But in terms of more of the social issues, I just didn't start to align with it anymore. And I know a lot of Christian people don't necessarily align with some of the really traditional social views that come from the Bible and things like that, but I just really did not align with that anymore. I didn't align with the hate. I didn't align with the we and they mentality, you know, love the sinner, hate the sin. I just felt like it was all very contradictory, and it didn't feel right anymore for me. Okay, the next thing I didn't really agree with was the idea that you're never really good enough, or even if you're a good person, it doesn't matter because if you don't give yourself over to the Lord, you know, you won't be saved. That did not align with me at all, because I would, just in my head, I'm like, I see so many people who are Christian people who are not living that way, and to me that doesn't make sense. You know, if you can be living this life but then just saying, well, you know, I'm saved, or, you know, it's like you're doing all these things, but putting this label and just saying, you know, well, I'm saved and I gave my life to God, but you're not changing your actions. To me, that doesn't line up. And I also don't agree that people who don't know the Lord are automatically going to go to heaven or go to hell. You know what I mean? Like with the evangelizing, it's like people who don't know him are just going to go to hell. That doesn't resonate with me at all. So another thing that I can go back to is kind of the way I used to think when I was really Christian. I was things that were taboo, I thought we were like kind of evil, like music that talked about Satan or like the devil, or tarot cards or fortune, karma, all of that. I always thought that was like evil. which now I just feel like is really ridiculous. But I used to think that, you know, I used to be like, oh my gosh, it's so evil, like I could never, you know, I don't believe in fate, I don't believe any of that. And it was just that fear inside my head that was like so scared about things. So yeah, basically things that were ungodly, I thought were bad. It's kind of ridiculous thinking about it now. And I know maybe my case is more extreme, but I just always had this fear that if I was adhering to these things, these worldly things, like God would know, you know, what I was thinking, you know, and things like that. Okay, so my battery almost died on my camera, so I just had to switch that quick. And another thing going back, I know I'm really all over the place, but I'm just trying to kind of think about what is in my head. I'm really not trying to be all over the place. I'm just trying to explain to you guys how I'm feeling. And the other thing that I wanted to mention was with the thoughts in my head and like having conversations with people is I always kind of felt like I had to speak my truth on what was right. I couldn't just have conversations with people and just be done with it and be like, oh, we have different beliefs, like, which now I can because I'm a lot more open. Like I just don't really think that way. I'm just like kind of live and let live. But back then it was like I always kind of felt like I had to like fight people, and not literally fight people, but it was just like I always had to like say my, you know, say my piece. Now I don't at all. I don't feel any need to do that. It's a lot more with my actions and how I treat people is what reflects the type of person I am and what I stand for. So I have a few stories about Christian people and sort of like my experience, but I think I was going to mention it earlier, but one of the first times I'd gone back to the church I grew up in a number of years, we had a guest speaker. And you know, this is like the first time I'd gone back to the church in a long time. And I just was like, I was open to just going to a service, and I still am. Like, I still crave that community and wanting to meet people who are loving and kind and want to form relationships and be better people. I still want that, and I'm still open to that. Whether it's in a church or not, or a different type of church or just a community, you know, I'm still really open to that. But it was so interesting, like, viewing this sermon as the person I am now, and this pastor was talking about burning in hell, and he was like talking about it like the whole time of the service, and I was just like, I literally wanted to start, I mean, I didn't want to start laughing, but I was just so appalled because I'm like, oh my gosh, he's doing exactly what I think is so ridiculous. Like, this is literally happening, you know, and like everyone in the crowd is just like, oh my gosh, yeah, like this is great, you know, and I'm just like, I don't want to be worried about going to hell. This is not the drive for the reason I want to believe. I'm just like him fearing everyone into this, and that, you know, if that's what you believe, and you believe in heaven and hell, that is totally fine. I mean, I understand, because it's pretty serious stuff. Like, I don't want to burn in hell either, but I don't really think that's in the cards for me. Yeah. Honestly, it's weird. Even when I was Christian, it was always hard for me to believe in heaven. Even before I kind of changed my beliefs fully, or, you know, my beliefs changed. I always kind of envisioned like a darkness, and maybe that is because of like my nursing background and knowing more about like science, but to me I was like, it's hard for me to believe that there's more, and I'm not saying there isn't, I don't really know, that's something I'm figuring out, but I always imagined it like when you die it's just gonna be like nothing, you know, kind of like when you're a baby and you don't remember, you know, between, you know, until you're like a few years old, you don't remember anything. That's sort of how I imagined it, and I don't really know what is gonna happen. I mean, no one really knows. I know people believe they know, and that's their own right. That's their own freedom to believe what they believe. Okay, so after going through all of that, I just kind of wanted to talk about where I'm at now and how I feel and what I believe. So at this point, I would say I still believe in God. I do believe in a higher power. I don't know if I could put a certain religion to encapsulate what I believe. I do believe in more, and that's one thing I always wondered, which maybe it's just me being like way too open, but I always wondered, I'm like, well, maybe everyone sort of believes in the same God, and maybe God doesn't punish us for believing in different gods. And I truly do think that people just need to do what's best for them, and there should not be so much hate around it. I mean, I have no hate towards Christians. I have no hate towards people who aren't Christian. The only people I have problems with are the ones who push their angry beliefs on other people, or, you know, or call people dumb, or are just rude about it and inappropriate and think they're better than other people. Those are the people that I have a problem with. And even with that, I mean, it's inevitable. It's a part of life. You can't change people. So, you know, that's life. I just want to be a more open and caring person, one that can learn and, you know, hopefully one day teach my kids to be this way and to think for themselves and to question authority and to, I don't know, not follow things blindly. It really is up to you, but I do think it's important to think about what you're doing and what you're thinking and why you think what you do. That's kind of where we're at today. I really hope this video kind of summed up why I would say I'm no longer Christian anymore, and I put it in these because I'm no longer religious. I just no longer align with that anymore, and I'm honestly really happy with where I'm at right now. I feel free, like there's a weight lifted off of me, and that's probably a point I never thought I would get to. I always thought I would be stressed and concerned about where I stand with God and things like that. So I really hope this video was interesting to you and informative. If you guys want to share below any of your experiences, feel free to leave a comment. As always, don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe below, and yeah, that wraps it up for this video. I really appreciate you guys for watching and tuning in. This was completely different than anything I have ever shared, really, so yeah. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next video.